Well, a very good afternoon to you this beautiful afternoon, and welcome to African News right here on Voice of the People TV. I am David Edwin. We'll start the news in Ghana, where the National Democratic Congress, NDC, in IM Oda, has officially launched its constituency campaign, urging members and supporters to wrap up efforts for a landslide victory in the upcoming general election. At a recent rally following a well-attended health walk, former Eastern Region Chairman Bismarck Taiwai Boateng emphasized the need for action, highlighting the NPP's long-standing dominance in the constituency since 1992 and its neglect of local development. Taiwai urged voters to choose the NDC in the December 7, 2024 election to experience meaningful governance and equitable development. He assured constituents that an NDC government would split the Eastern region into two, making Oda the capital of the new region to accelerate progress. Focusing on priorities, he reiterated the NDC's commitment to job creation for the youth and restoring the nation's dignity. Regional youth organizer Richard Etolman Nyako, who officiated the event, stated that the NDC is prepared to face the NPP at the polls to prevent election rigging. He urged polling agents to remain vigilant and proactive. While still talking elections in Ghana, the Electoral Commission of Ghana has reaffirmed its commitment to delivering a credible and robust final voters register for the December 2024 elections. This assurance comes in response to the National Democratic Congress, NDC, and other stakeholders who have raised concerns about the integrity of the register. The Electoral Commission emphasized that the voters register is crucial for ensuring fair and transparent elections. This statement follows the NDC's petitions submitted after the nationwide demonstration on September the 17th, calling for a forensic audit of the register. In a statement signed by Deputy Chairman of Operations Samuel Tete, the EC confirmed that it would review the NDC's petition and respond in the coming days. The Commission also highlighted that the process of finalizing the voters' register is still in its early stages and reassured stakeholders that it is open to engagement and address any concern. The NDC's protest stems from worries about errors and discrepancies in the voters' register. The EC has maintained that the finalization of the register must be completed before any audit can occur. While still in Ghana, the Vice President and New Patriotic Party NPP flag bearer, Dr. Muhammadu Bahumai, has vowed to reduce electricity. He addressed electricity costs. Dr. Bahumai outlined plans to reduce public transportation expenses, electric buses in urban areas. He believes the initiative will further alleviate transportation costs for city residents. On the topic of food security, Dr. Bahumai committed to prioritizing technology and innovative practices in agriculture and fishing to enhance productivity and reduce food prices. Of course, VOP TV will keep more updates on the campaign initiative as the election approaches in Ghana sometime in December. From Ghana, we'll move straight to Mali, where the Group for Support of Islam and Muslim, that's the JNIM, Al-Qaeda's West African branch, claimed responsibility for a coordinated assault in Mali's capital city of Bamako, which happened on 18th of September. The attack comes as JNIM continues to push further south within Mali, threatening the stability of interim President Assimi Goïta's military regime. The assault marks the first such operation inside Bamako in several years, though JNIM did strike at a major military base just outside of the capital in 2022. Meanwhile, in the early hours of yesterday morning, gunshots rang out among almost simultaneously at the Gamade School in Bamako's Falaise district and the military side of the city's main airport. The jihadis did not target the civilian side of the airport, according to both Malian security officials and JNIM. However, JNIM was quick to claim credit for the operation, stating that its suicide commandos were able to raid the Gemadmere school, killing dozens of troops and alleged Russian Wagner machineries. At the airport, it's also said its men burned at least 6 aircraft, including drones, along with several other military vehicles. Mali's officials have not given a precise casualty count as of the time of filing this report, instead only stating that a number of military personnel were killed in the assault. Most of the casualties appear to have occurred at the Gemamare school based on witnesses, testimony, and photos released by JNIM. A report of Human Rights Watch, that's HRW, pointed that the Islamic insurgents in Burkina Faso have stepped up attacks on civilians, carrying out door-to-door killings, slitting throats, and targeting Christian worshippers. HRW quoted data which shows that more than 6,000 deaths, including around 1,000 civilians killed by Islamic insurgents, have been recorded in the West African state in the first 8 months of the year. Meanwhile, when Captain Ibrahim Traore seized power in a coup 2 years ago, he pledged to improve the dire security situation within 2 or 3 months. However, the violence has only escalated. On Wednesday, the HRW's report document states that gruesome atrocities committed by jihadis have been occurring in the country. Attacks are often carried out in retaliation against communities who have refused to join the ranks of the jihadis or have been accused of collaborating with government troops. Recall that Burkina Faso have been battling jihadist groups, including those ranked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State since 2016. A February attack on church worshippers in the northeastern village of Eskane left 12 dead. The Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, one of the key militant groups in Burkina Faso, claimed the responsibility for the attack. Well, joining us in the studio to make sense of some of these stories that we've read to you is Barrister Darlington Agumo, who is, of course, a lawyer and a political analyst. Barrister, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, David, and how are you today?
I'm fine, very well, thank you, Barrister. How are you as well?
I'm okay.
All right, let's kick it off from Ghana, where we know that elections, general elections, presidential and parliamentary, would be starting, particularly December the 7th of this year. Several consultations, several campaigns have been going back and forth by, of course, political elites who will be vying for offices. At this point, some very significant moves seem to be happening around Ghana, and that is coming from the National Democratic Congress, that's the NDC, the party where the former president, John Mahama, is the flag bearer. Do you see in any way some level of political change between the ruling party, that's the NPP, and the NDC happening anytime soon, owing to the fact that there have been several complaints from the people in Ghana?
Yeah, David. Unfortunately, there is no political party that will be in office and people will not complain. You cannot please everybody.
Right.
But what we are saying, let your good deeds, your goodwill be at least 70–80%. It's better than when the reverse is the case. You came into office, 2 square meal a day. Under your watch, they are not eating at all. They are grinding their teeth. You came into office, prices of goods were met at a level. Under your watch, the whole thing evaporated. So these are how the indices to indicate where you are going as a party. So it's not enough for you to say you want to lead. Are you going to lead well? What is happening in Ghana, unfortunately, is the same thing that we are expressing here. It's the same thing. The leadership in Ghana, we thought they were moving somewhere, somehow. But all of a sudden, they derailed. Their economy today is not as it used to be.
Right.
You know, under Jerry Rawlings and co. It wasn't. So I don't know whether African leaders are under a course not to perform. Not to perform. It's unfortunate.
Now, as it stands, there is the flag bearer of the ruling party, and I'm talking about the New Patriotic Party, that's Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, who has, of course, is the present vice president, and of course, he's vying for the office of the president in the next election. He said that if elected into office, particularly look into power generation, which he did make a statement saying that he's proposing to generate approximately 2,000 megawatts from solar energy, solar power. Does this look like another statement that political leaders make? Because let's face it, it's not like power generation is very okay in Ghana and the people are complaining. But as it stands, is there the possibility that going by his political promise, he might get the nod of Ghanaians, particularly in the next general elections?
My dear, it's an indictment on himself. This is not a political statement. It's an indictment. Vice President to the man in charge today, under your watch, you couldn't generate this power you're talking about. So if your principal could not do it, what is the guarantee that you are going to do it? You have just indicted yourself. You have been there for how many years now? You couldn't generate these 2,000 megawatts. So what?
No, Barrister, isn't there this statement that is accredited to some persons that say since they are the vice president, they don't have full power, they possibly might not be able to do much as vice president?
Why is it not a priority under their administration? Power. Our land, we are giving them power. Nigeria was giving them power. I don't know whether they have stopped.
Right.
So, warfare is the same thing. So, why didn't it occur to your principal to look, let us give the Ghanaians light? As a matter of fact, David, did you notice that most of the things that African leaders are using to campaign are things that is a given in the Western world?
Social amenities.
Social amenities, yes. Can any American president come and campaign that, look, I'm going to generate, I'm going to give people 24 hours of electricity. It will be a market. You won't even try it.
Isn't this more like a wake-up call for Africans to look into who they elect into office? Because again, Dr. Bawumia mentioned that he plans to reduce public transportation expenses by introducing electric buses in urban areas. Now, electric buses, one would want to ask, what particular plans have been on ground before now for such to even happen? So, another promise that is made by another politician here.
Exactly. I told you that it's like these leaders, they are learning from each other. They just watch what is going on in another country, how politicians are deceiving their people. They say, okay, we too, we can copy from these people. Oh. They're always copying the wrong thing. How could you make such a statement? It's the same thing like when they promise us CNG bus.
Right.
Meanwhile, there is no place, no station, nothing on ground. These buses and all that. We always put the cart before the horse in Nigeria. So African leader is like an epidemic among them. I'm telling you, they have never said their priorities right, and that is a shame, a very big shame. You are promising people in this 21st century, that you are going to do what? You are going to give them electricity. You are going to give them electric buses. Meanwhile, the Western world are talking of bullet train. Bullet train in their cities that can move thousands of people from one point to the other in 30 minutes.
Right.
In 30 minutes. None of them is thinking of all these things, so. None of them, but the money most of them have stolen can provide this thing for their people.
Is this some level of illiteracy at the high in Africa? Because if Africans were literate enough to know that these social amenities are not supposed to be a given for any politician to campaign with, we would do better as a people.
Yeah, it's true. Yes, that is why if you check, because Nigeria is supposed to be a good example on how things should be done in Africa.
Right.
But we are not providing that leadership. So they have made sure that their people are impoverished. By the time this administration finishes in Nigeria, the out-of-school children will be 10 times higher. Because with the school fees and the hardship, most of them are dropping out. So they don't want you to be educated. They don't want those things that their children are enjoying abroad. It is not for you. And they don't know that this type of behavior and mindset is not helping the economy and the polity, because it is only an educated and literate populace that can develop the country. If you don't have this kind of
insecurity issues bedeviling that nation, the Electoral Commission, that's the EC in Ghana, is having some level of issues with the National Democratic Congress, that's the opposition party, particularly about discrepancies and error in the National Register that is supposed to be used for the election. Now, as it stands, of course, the Electoral Commission has said they are going to look into it and they would see that all discrepancies are being corrected. Such call from an opposition party, isn't that worrisome going into the elections that is just a few months away?
David, I just told you that these African leaders, they are copying on each other. This thing they complained of, was it not what happened in Nigeria? When you saw ghost names in our electoral register, people were pointing out these names, they are not Nigerian. In fact, most of them were not Nigerian names, especially at Owerri.
Yes.
It was Ugochi, who pointed out all the discrepancies. And when INEC could no longer hide it, they started cleaning up the register. At the end of the day, it was neither here nor there. So what the opposition are doing in Ghana is what they're supposed to do. They have to be vigilant. Because the man in power, the party in power, they don't want to leave that place.
Right.
They want to remain there. So it is left for you to work hard, to discredit them, to tell the people what they are doing wrong, in order to gain advantage. If they keep quiet, nobody will help them. They have to help themselves in this particular instance. What they are doing is not new. All African leaders do it. It's very common here. And I ask myself, where are we going with all this? Where are we going? In this age and time, we couldn't get our election right. Whenever there's an election, you see people doing all manner of things to gain advantage, destroying their polity, destroying their society.
Right. Because
you want to win an election. And at the end of the day, you start blaming everybody but yourself. All these things they are doing is impacting on their society. You are teaching people the wrong values. That is why when one dictator or when one bad leader leaves office, five will replace him. Because they want to follow the same road he passed through to gain ascendancy to power.
It's interesting you mentioned dictatorship, and at this point, we're just going to go straight to Mali, where the Group for Support of Islam and Muslims, that's JNIM, and Al-Qaeda's West African branch, have claimed responsibility for that coordinated assault in Mali's capital city of Bamako, of course, which claimed several...
Let me tell you clearly, you see these Sahel regions,
yes,
or Sahel state that they broke away from ECOWAS. Don't be surprised that some ECOWAS nations and leaders is going to sponsor terrorism in their country. I said, don't be surprised.
What made you say so?
Good. If you check what is going on in Nigeria, how a certain Toju Bello who came from Niger is here holding court, collecting taxes from our farmers and from our villagers, doing all sorts of things, threatening our military and all that. Please, what makes you think that the same thing will not be extended to these other rebel states who broke away from ECOWAS? Do you think that the West African leaders are happy with them? They are not happy. More so when they call their bluff. So this insecurity may be state-sponsored if care is not taken. That is why I'm surprised that a military junta will be there and terrorists will be disturbing their people. It's so funny.
Right.
Let them put their foot on the ground and flush them out.
So does this look like there is a sponsorship from some of these other West African countries?
It is not. It can't
to disrupt security?
It can't be far from it. It can't be far from it because I just gave you an example with Nigeria. And the West African leaders are not happy the way these three went away, even after all the pleadings and after all the entreaties. So they would want to make things difficult for them. I'm telling you.
So what then is their gain to make things difficult for another country?
So that they will now come back to the same West African. Yes, now, I mean, look at it. I am telling you, based on what I know of these your African leaders and whatever, what I know about them, whenever you don't agree with them, why do you think Thomas Sankara died? Was it not when you opposed Babangida? And called them names in a meeting. Babangida was baffled that this small boy, you look at me in the face and challenge me. And that was it. Immediately, they prop up Kampaure, his bosom friend. They poisoned his man to kill his friend, and he did it. Today, the same Kampaure have run away from his country. You can see. So that's what they do. They don't want anything good from any of them. I don't know why. They don't want anything good from any of them. Not to talk of this rebel state. They want to make sure that they regret leaving ECOWAS.
Now, finally, Barrister, Human Rights Watch has put out a statement stating that this jihadist group are taking their very gruesome attack to worship centers, slitting throats of individuals and not even military personnel anymore. Is this in any way going to be reduced anytime soon? Knowing for a fact that as it stands, just like we have pointed out, Mali is not being governed by any civilian. Is there any possibility for a ceasefire soon from any of this jihadist group?
You see, like what I said, if they discover that there are outside influence, I am advising these three countries, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, I'm advising them to unite their forces and give these people a run for their money. Since they are military regime, they should unite forces now. When they go to Mali with all their forces and flush away the terrorists there, they will now go back to Niger and help them. After Niger, they will go to Burkina Faso. That is it, because individually they may not be able to weather the storm. Yes, they may not be able to. Okay. Because if they are getting enough sponsorship from outside, they will be overwhelmed. If these people are dealing with Nigeria in this manner, imagine if the same characters were to go to Mali or any of they will overrun them in 24 hours. That's the more reason why they should collaborate, since they are now working together.
All right. Thank you so very much, Barrister Darlington Agumo, for always being here. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, you're still watching the African News right here on Voice of the People TV. More stories after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The West African Logistics Conference, that's WALC, commenced today in Douala, Cameroon, with over 60 logistic leaders from West Africa and U.S. military forces in attendance. Hosted by the U.S. Africa Command and the Cameroon Armed Forces, the conference aims to address regional logistics challenges and enhance cooperation between military forces. Over the next 2 days, participants will explore ways to improve interoperability and operational effectiveness. The conference will feature speakers, panels, and discussions on logistic issues, including best practices and lessons learned from various operations. The event builds to the success of last year's WALC held in Côte d'Ivoire. Brigadier General George Dyrich, Director of Logistics for U.S. Africa Command, highlighted the importance of collaboration, expressing gratitude to the Cameroon Armed Forces for their support in organizing this event. The discussion will focus on strengthening logistics network to ensure military readiness and effective humanitarian responses. In Katumbari, a local community has ordered the evacuation of residents from the Al Mazad South neighborhood due to worsening security and increased shelling. This area, under Rapid Support Forces, that's the RSF, control, has been heavily bombarded by the Sudanese army, leading to casualties and severe disruption of basic services. The community, I beg your pardon, the committee's decision followed recent shelling that resulted in the death of 2 residents, including a relative of a well-known Sudanese artist. The committee highlighted the dangers of indiscriminate shelling, disease outbreak, and inadequate services as key reasons for the evaluation. They will assist evacuees with food and health care while urging families to coordinate their departure with officials. The situation in Al Mazad South and nearby areas has deteriorated with shortages of food and supplies and heavy fighting between the army and RSF. Checkpoints and restrictions by RSF soldiers, along with reports of looting and violence, further complicate the situation, contributing to a broader humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Well, President of South Sudan, Salva Kiir, dismissed the Directors General of the Petroleum Exploration and Production Authority on Wednesday. The announcement, broadcasted on the state-owned South Sudan Broadcasting Corporation, stated that Engineer Deng Luawul was replaced by Engineer Kong John Akot as the new Director General. As usual with Kiir's decision, no explanation was provided for the change. In addition to this, President Kiir made another appointment in the petroleum sector. Zakaria Kojo Agula was named as the new technical advisor to the Ministry of Petroleum. This shift in key position within the Ministry of Petroleum were announced through presidential decrees. The reason behind these personal changes were not described, which is consistent with Kiir's approach to governmental appointments. And from South Sudan, we'll go straight to South Africa, where South Africa is intensifying its efforts to addressing illegal immigration by implementing stricter measures such as roadblocks, house searches, and checks on workplaces and public spaces to find and deport undocumented immigrants. The government deports around 15,000 to 20,000 immigrants each year, a costly practice that has sparked debate. Concerns over border security, job competition, and crime have led many South Africans to blame immigrants for various societal issues. These strict actions have ignited debates about human rights and xenophobia. While some citizens support the measure as necessary for national security, others worry they may increase tension between locals and foreign nationals. Critics argue that the crackdown may be driven by xenophobic statements, potentially harming the relationship between South Africans and immigrants. The number of undocumented immigrants in South Africa is estimated to be as high as 5 million, with at least 1 million from Zimbabwe. Despite the government's firm stance on enforcing immigrants' law, questions remains about the balance between national security and the humane treatment of vulnerable population. This issue highlights the challenges South Africa faces in shaping its immigration policies and evolving social and economic conditions. You're still watching the African News on Voice of the People TV. More stories in business and sports after this time. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Museum of Islamic Arts will unveil splendors of the Atlas, a voyage through Morocco's heritage. The exhibition is part of the Qatar Morocco 2024 Year of Culture, will present over 200 items, including artifacts, manuscripts, instruments, jewelries, and photographs. It aims to explore Morocco's rich history, societal influence, and artistic heritage, featuring both loans from Morocco's institutions and previously unseen works from Qatari collections. Curated by Dr. Mouania Shekab Abdaya, the exhibition is organized into 5 thematic sections. It starts with an exploration of Morocco's landscape and society through photography, then delves into historical and theological scholarship from Moroccan cities. The third section focuses on traditional Moroccan craft, including leatherworks, textiles, and ceramics, showcasing their cultural significance. The exhibition continues with a look at traditional Moroccan music through instruments from various regions and concludes with contemporary Moroccan art. The final session will display new works by art Norenden Amir, blending traditional craftsmanship with modern artistic expression. Recent reports suggest President Biden might visit Angola soon, signaling increase in U.S. engagement with Africa. The trip could highlight U.S. investments in the Lobito Corridor, an infrastructure project linking resource-rich areas of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Zambia to Angola's ports. The visit would follow recent high-profile engagements, including a U.S. Defense Secretary's visit and a meeting between Biden and Angola's President João Lourenço. Angola's strategic importance is clear, given its position on Africa's Atlantic coast and its influential role in regional diplomacy. However, the country faces serious issues, including high youth unemployment and widespread dissatisfaction with the government. Angolans have criticized the government's handling of protests and media freedom, and there are concerns about corruption and inequality. For the U.S. visit to be meaningful, it would address these challenges, while a visit could strengthen ties. It risks being seen as support for an unpopular government unless it leads to tangible benefits of the Angolan people. For the partnership, if to succeed, it must combine symbolic gestures with concrete actions and improve Angola's business environment and address its social issues. The South African government has reaffirmed its commitment to fostering better society for all, aligning with the vision of former President Nelson Mandela. Enhanced legislation and policies are seen as essential to address challenges that extend beyond the duration of any single administration, particularly in social assistance and grants. Recent discussions have highlighted 2 significant issues in social assistance: the The maternity benefits, commonly referred to as the pregnancy grant, and the reported R4 billion underspending by the South African Social Security Agency related to this grant, which has generated considerable controversy. While the alleged underspending is currently under legal scrutiny, many making it premature to discuss further details. The focus remains on the ongoing development on the maternal support grants draft policy initiated by the Department of Social Development in 2012. This policy aims to explore options for providing support to vulnerable pregnant women. And in business, Zimbabwe's new gold-backed currency, the ZiG, is struggling to gain traction 5 months after its introduction. The currency has lost almost 80% of its value on the black market, casting doubt on the government's plan to make it the sole currency by 2026. Independent economist Prosper Chitabara attributes the devaluation to a lack of confidence in the new currency. Locals are hesitant to adopt the ZiG, opting for the US dollar instead. Market traders are skeptical, citing the currency's instability. The ZiG has been getting weaker, so it doesn't make business sense to transact with it, said Maynard Maketo, a street hawker. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe's Monetary Policy Committee member, Persistent Guyana, believes the government can increase ZiG adoption by charging taxes in the local currency. And then in sports, in a dramatic twist, Formula One boss Stefano Domenicali, meeting with South Africa's sports minister Gayton McKenzie, has dealt a significant blow to Rwanda's ambition of hosting a Grand Prix, with South Africa exceeding Kilami circuit, coupled with its rich F1 history, puts the country in pole position to secure a spot on the Formula One calendar. The circuit, located in Johannesburg, previously hosted the South African Grand Prix and is poised for a comeback. Rwanda, on the other hand, faced an uphill battle requiring significant investment to build a new circuit from scratch. This would be a massive undertaking, potentially taking years to complete. Dominicali's interest in returning Formula One to Africa is clear, but that he demands a solid investment and strategic plan. South Africa's proven track record and existing infrastructure makes it an attractive option. With that, we've come to the end of African News and Voice of the People TV. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we are at Voice of the People TV, and on all other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. Thank you so very much for being here. I am David Edwin. Do have a good afternoon.